This is going to be the recording for Force in Motion Lesson 1.2. So kind of the introduction to our unit. First thing you're going to notice at the top of the module for this week is that there is a new notebook for this unit, which you are going to need. That means the microbiome one should have already been turned in at this point. And then going into our homepage for this lesson, you're going to notice there's a few different parts of the lesson today. And we are going to start with the warm-up. And the warm-up is in activity 1 of Amplify. And it's kind of going to just gather your initial thoughts about force and motion. How does force move objects and things like that? So the warm-up down here, like I said, we are kind of thinking about how an object's motion can change. And so this is, like I already said, initial thoughts. So it's okay if you're not 100% sure yet. So there are 2 questions. The first one is how the motion of an object that is already moving can change. And then how can the motion of an object that's not moving change? So you're going to kind of answer those and hand that in. In our slides for today, you're going to see a few things. The first thing is that obviously our warm-up we completed, and I'll talk more about it. We watched a video here in a second, which you're going to watch on your own, that introed our investigation that we're going to have throughout this unit. And so there was a space pod that was sent on a mission, and they're trying to dock it to the space station, and it moved unexpectedly. And so throughout this unit, we're working on how forces affect motion. And so the video, like I said, you're going to watch on your own because when I screencastify like this, it doesn't pick up the sound. So you're going to watch that on your own. And pretty much the idea is, like I said, that pod was trying to dock. The camera footage cut out. And so we don't know why that pod moved in the opposite direction that it was supposed to. And so we're trying to figure out what happened. And so we talked about this question in class. So why we thought the pod moved in that opposite direction instead of stopping like it was supposed to. And this is what's usually supposed to happen. It will approach the station and kind of slow down. And then there's thrusters, which are these 2 things, kind of jet engines at the bottom that fire up to slow it down even more. And then it connects. But we know that didn't happen this time. And so the thrusters are these 2 guys right here, are engines, and they kind of fire and kind of help it slow down. And so we have these 2 claims that we discussed in class. These pictures show kind of what happened, and we know that our pod kind of is now traveling away from where we need it to. And so we discussed which claim we thought was more accurate or maybe just a stronger claim. So we had claim 1 that the thrusters caused the pod to move in the opposite direction. And then we had claim 2 that the thrusters only slowed down the pod, it didn't stop, and the pod hit the space station, which made it bounce and move in the opposite direction. Our chapter question that we focused on is what caused the pod to move direction, and that's kind of what our mystery led us up to right now. That's what we're kind of thinking about. And so there was a hands-on activity that we're supposed to do, and obviously not being in person makes it a little challenging. So before we do that, though, I want you to go to your notebook. And when you open up your notebook, you're going to notice that it looks a little bit different than the last one. There is a home page for you to write your name and your class hour on, and which you'll see here. And then the second page, I turned it into a table of contents instead of doing the tabs like I did last time. And these are all hyperlinks, so you can click on them and they will take you directly to where you need to go. Each chapter has its home page like I did last time, where you have all your vocabulary and your chapter question. And so today we added in 1 vocab word, which was velocity, and that's the speed in a particular direction. So make sure you pause the video and add that word in. And what I talked about is how this unit is kind of set up a little differently. And so each lesson, for the most part, there's a few lessons I skip later on, way later in the unit. But for each lesson, there is some important ideas that I want you to get out of it. So I'm going to show my notebook each day and show you what I put in it. That way you can copy it in and kind of pull out what the most important thing was you're supposed to grasp. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's two. And so the two important ideas for today was that pushing or pulling an object that is not already moving can make that object start to move. And the second one is that pushing or pulling an object that is already moving can make that object speed up, slow down, stop, or change direction. And you can see down here, something really important to note and kind of reference a lot throughout this unit is that there's 5 ways that an object's motion can change. And then we just kind of said it. Speed up, slow down, start moving, stop moving, or change direction. And so pause the video and get that in your notebook. And then the activity 3, when you click on it, it is in Canvas, and we tried to kind of make the best of the situation and still have some sort of lab atmosphere. So what you're going to see is Mr. Livingood did the lab that we would have done in person. And like I said, I can't really show you the video because you won't pick up the sound. So you're going to watch this video here, and it has to do with using the little spring, I don't even know what its fancy name is, that is in your toilet paper holder that kind of you push back and forth to help you get that toilet paper roll on when you change it. And so we use that to shoot and hit different objects and kind of study and observe how different objects move differently. And so Mr. Livingood did it, so you can watch that. You can do this investigation on your own if you would like, if you have these supplies. If not, just watch the video, and then you're going to answer these questions. Some of these are kind of hypothetical because if you didn't do it, think about what would happen if you did, and kind of just get your brain thinking about the motion and like, would tile versus carpet change it, and just different things like that. So that is activity 3. The next thing on the agenda is activity 4 and amplify, which I actually pretty much already gave you the answers to because that was the 5 ways that an object has different motions, like the 5 different motions. And so you can see down here, they are already in here. And so you can pause the video and add those in activity 4. So start moving, stop moving, change direction, speed up, slow down. It says save and continue, but the only thing on the next page is the definition for velocity, but you still have to go to page 2 to be able to hand it in. So make sure you hand it in. And then the last thing is a exit ticket. So you will click on that, and that is in Canvas like usual. You have 2 attempts to do that, so please make sure that you use both attempts to get the best score that you can. And that is that for this lesson.